Long ago, in the early 90s, there was a PC that was so problematic, so full of blue screens of death, that its owners decided to bury it in the backyard. And since then, every Halloween, the PC can be seen coming back as a ghostly form of its former self, with no hard drives, no motherboard, no power supply, and yet somehow it still works, as if it's trying to make up for all of the problems it gave its owners in the past. This is that PC, and we're going to take a look at it today on the Retro Hack Shack. So let's take a closer look at what's going on here. Now, there's no trickery involved. I'm not feeding in a signal from another computer like you might think. This is actually all running with the hardware inside this particular PC chassis. Like I mentioned, there's no power supply, no motherboard, no hard drive, no floppy drives, but the front panel actually works and looks like it should. You can see the indicator is showing us that this is running at 4 megahertz, which would be the frequency of a 8088 PC, early XT clone or something like that. And also you can see the power light is on. Now, what's actually going on is I have this little board. It's an ESP32 development board called the TTGO VGA32. And this board is running some software called FabGL, which was written by Fabrizio Di Vittorio. And you can look up his information either on GitHub or by going to fabglib.org, fabglib.org, and you'll find all the information there. What Fabrizio has done is he's written emulators for the ESP32 of various systems, including the PC. He's also written quite a number of other emulators that run on the ESP32, including the VIC-20 and an Altair 8800 emulator, as well as terminal emulators for if you wanted to turn this board into just a terminal emulator you could access other systems with. And all kinds of utilities and really cool things, games like Space Invaders and racing games and all kinds of demos. So he's really done a great job with these emulators running on the ESP32. And this particular breakout board has a VGA port on it, and it also has PS2 inputs for a mouse and keyboard. And so this really helps you use some older technology like an old keyboard, old mouse, obviously an old monitor, with this particular emulator, and you can do some amazing things like running everything off this little board and maybe tricking your friends into thinking that there's something wrong with this particular PC, or maybe astound them with how this PC is running without a motherboard, etc., like I was trying to do in the intro. Now, to make this illusion more effective with this PC case, what I've done is I've run some power cords outside on the back side of the PC case into, for example, the power LED, into the display which shows the megahertz, and into the speaker for sound. And I've even hooked up the reset switch, so that actually physically works. If you want to reset this unit, you just hit the reset switch and you'll reset the board in the back. It truly is amazing to think that you can run this system that cost over $1,500 or over $4,500 in 2020 dollars today on a microcontroller that costs less than $3. And the board, the development board that it's running on, costs less than $15. Crazy. So let me show you how to install the software in case you want to try this yourself, and then we'll take a look at the emulator and see what we can run on it, what it's capable of. So the first thing to do is make sure that you have a compatible board. Like I mentioned, I'm using the TTGO VGA32. This has a built-in ESP32 module, as well as a VGA port, like I mentioned, PS2 inputs for mouse and keyboard. And the most important thing is on the back here, it has a port for an SD card. There are several versions of these out there. One has the SD card built on, the slot built onto the board. The other one does not. So if you get the one that does not have it, you're not going to be able to run this. So you definitely want to get the one that has that port for the SD card built in. Now, if you'd rather build a board like this instead of buying it, I recommend PCBWay. You can get prototype PCBs as low as $5, and they do assembly, 3D printing, CNC milling, pretty much everything you need to build your projects. So check out PCBWay for low-cost PCBs and way more vintage computer fun. And I thank them for their support of the Retro Hack Shack. Once you have that, you just head over to github.com and look for FabGL. Once you have that, you need to download this code. This code is the Arduino code, or the code that you're going to be using through the Arduino software to upload the program into the board. So you're going to want to go ahead and download the code. Just click on code, and you can download as a zip file or whatever. I think that's easiest for me. Download it as a zip file. And then you can uncompress that into your Arduino libraries folder, wherever that might be. Once you have that, you just go over here to the open up Arduino, the latest version of Arduino. You're going to want to go to Tools and set your board for ESP32 Dev module. And then you're going to want to make sure that your partition scheme is set to Huge App. So that should be one of the options there. And then, of course, you're going to want to select the right port number once you have your board connected to your computer. Once you've done that, you can go to Examples, and you should be able to scroll down and find FabGL listed. On my version of Arduino, it's listed as Examples from Custom Libraries. So if I scroll down far enough, I find FabGL, and then you can see the various examples that he has here, right? So for example, if you go down to VGA, you can see the PC emulator. That's the one that I'm using right now. And if there's time in the episode a little later, I'll show you examples of perhaps the terminal or a game or maybe the VIC-20 emulator. But if you bring up PC emulator, like I've done here, then you have the code here. Now, this is pretty much ready to go. You don't have to do anything. I did make one small change though, and I'll explain why when we get there. So if you scroll down, you can see here, there's a section here that says disconf or disconfs, and he has these listed. When we go through the installation, this menu will come up. And what I wanted to do was actually bring in my own C drive image so that I could put my own programs on it and kind of play around with it and do what I want. So what I did was I copied one of these lines here. These are basically options that will come up when you do the install, and I'll show you what it looks like. But I copied one of these lines and brought it down here underneath here, and I gave it my own name. I called it My Stuff. And then here in the URLs, that he has two URLs listed, one for the A drive, one for the C drive. What I did was I created a custom one for the C drive. And what this will do is it'll go out and look and see if these images are on the disk. And if they are, it will just run them. It won't try to download them. So I'll go over all that part later, but that is the one section of code that I changed. And you can play around with this as well if you're comfortable messing around with code. But that's basically the only thing that I changed. And then once you have your board connected, you can just go ahead and upload that to your board. It just takes a few seconds. Once it's done, you're good to go. So let's go ahead and check out what this PC emulator looks like when you first boot up on the system. So now that your code is uploaded to the board, you can hook up your keyboard, mouse, monitor, and power it up. And the first thing you'll see is this question: do you want to connect to Wi-Fi? I'll fix that flickering, by the way, in just a minute. But yes, this thing has Wi-Fi. That's because it has an ESP32, which has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And as you can see, I've got numerous Wi-Fi access points I can connect to, and I can just select one and then put in my password, and we're good to go. The reason you need to do that is because if you don't have the images which you probably don't at this point, it will actually go out to the internet and download the images for you. This is something that Fabrizio built into the software. So you can just select which image you want and then go out and it'll download it automatically for you. It might take a while, by the way, the first time you go to download this. So just beware of that. And on the screen, you can see that all of those entries in the program, including the one that I changed that says My Stuff, is now appearing on screen. So I can select that. It'll boot the FreeDOS image, and it'll also boot up on my C drive. This is actually a copy of the drive that I got on my 5150 when I first got it. I backed up the content, and I still have it, and I was actually able to use that directly on this board with this emulator running. It works perfectly. So the first thing I'll do is I'll just go into where I had that game called Transylvania. You saw it on the screen during the intro. And that's actually a game that will run. We can pull it up here and you can see this is running off the emulator, a game called Transylvania. It's kind of one of those text-based plus graphics adventure things that was popular in the mid 80s, where it wasn't just the text-based game, go north, go south, but they also had graphics to go along with it. And this was written by Jeffrey J, or at least translated into IBM compatible software by Jeffrey J, with story and graphics by Antonio Antiochia, in 1987 by Polarware Incorporated. Very nice, and it works great. Well, I was testing out the dry ice fog for the opening, Penny got to investigate a little bit, and she was super interested. What is it, Penny? What is it? So let's just try out a few other programs and games really quickly just to make sure they work. I'm not going to do a full playthrough, but just to show you that this actually does a decent job at emulating these older games. Now, we could try Doom in a minute and see if that runs. I don't think it will because this is really emulating CGA graphics through the VGA port. So I don't think it's going to run Doom, but we can go just test some other ones. So let's test out Alley Cat, for example. Here we go. And you can see it's running pretty well, maybe a little fast even. I don't know if you can hear that. It does have sound. Like I said, I hooked the speaker up and it's coming through. It's not very loud though, so I need to ask Fabrizio how to turn up the volume. But let me see if I can get the mic close and you can hear what it sounds like. Yeah, so that's definitely working, definitely playing sound. Do you want to use a joystick? No. We're going to select kitten level and press any key to start. So here we are. Got the cat. It's absolutely working. Whoops, I fell off. Yeah, this is working pretty much like I would expect it to be. Oops. It's kind of hard to play just with the keyboard, but it does work absolutely well. This is exactly what I would expect to see if you were running this on actual hardware. And I have run this on my 5150, so I'm pretty sure this is working. Okay, let's try Boulder Dash now. Boulder Dash, First Star Software 1984. Getting the music. Definitely looks like it's working. I'm not sure how to start the game. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah. So the colors are awful, but it is working, it seems like. Oh, I just died. Not very good at Boulder Dash, but Boulder Dash appears to be working just fine. And last but not least, let's try Centipede. Number of players, 1. Amateur level. Let's see if this works. Yeah. This is really loud with an IBM Model M keyboard here, but it is playable. No slowdowns at all that I can detect. Crazy that this is running on a $3 microcontroller. It's actually quite fun. While we're in here, let's just see what Checkit responds with when we run Checkit. I don't know if Checkit will even run on this thing. Let's see. Yeah, so far so good. And the initial tests pass. Let's go ahead and do a benchmark, see if that does anything. Okay, it seems to be working, and the benchmark actually comes back really fast, almost at a Model 30. So well beyond the Turbo 10 speed. So it says the CPU is 2.86 megahertz, actually. 12.9K whetstones, CGA video adapter, video speed, call it 1.7K, no coprocessor. So pretty cool. And if we look at the sysinfo, let's just see what it's reporting back. It is reporting back that the processor type is an 8088, like we expected. Base memory, 640K. It thinks that it has a 1.44 meg floppy, 3.5-inch floppy disk connected, which it does not. 2-button mouse. So yeah, everything reports back just like you would expect it to on a standard XT machine. Let's just take a look at the graphics tests and see what it reports back as it's able to do. So we'll just go through some of these different modes really quickly. No, it doesn't like that mode. Okay, it's pulling in this one. And here's the color palette test. And it's not changing at all. You'll notice the color is odd. So there's something going on here where the color and some of the modes actually are not supported here. I think these should be the solid color tests. Oh, there's green. Maybe I didn't wait long enough for it to sync or something. Maybe the sync is slow. I don't know. Blue looks good. Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah, I would have thought that the colors would have worked out because the colors looked like they were working on the other screens. Okay, and just for completeness, let's try a more of a text utility type of thing. I know that TurboTax is on here, so let's see if we can run that. Yep, and here's TurboTax. It's reading in a data file. Doesn't seem to have any issues. Okay, and there's some personal information on this screen, so I'm going to blur that out. But otherwise, you know, it's just a text entry, database-driven utility program. So you would think this would work okay, and it absolutely does. Okay, so now I have I looked up Doom. Apparently, you can't run Doom on CGA unless you have a card that supports color burst and a composite output as well. You mix those together somehow. I don't know. So I don't think we're going to be able to run Doom, but we might be able to run Windows because that's one of the options listed here. So I put the correct image on the SD card. So let's see if this will boot up. Here we go. Now, this is running in Hercules mode, which is black and white. So that's going to free up a lot of resources from the ESP32 in order for it to actually work. I think if you ran this in color, here we go. Microsoft Windows 3.0. You can see there's some dithering going on here with the graphics. So this is going to be running in black and white mode. and it appears to be working. But yeah, the ESP32 probably doesn't have quite enough horsepower to do all of the color needed for color mode, because that's going to take a lot more processing power just for the video signal alone. Well, it seems to be loading. Ooh, mouse is working. Let's see if we actually, hey, look at that program manager. It's odd to see this in black and white mode, but it seems to be working. No problems with the mouse, no hesitation. Let's try to load something up here. There's a games folder. Okay, we've got solitaire, reversey, win chess. I guess we could do reversey in black and white, right? Let's see if that'll run. Yep, sure enough, here's reversey. And I guess I'm the white player. But I'm not good at this game. The computer always beat me when I played this. I don't know what the right strategy is. I was just never good at this. But yeah, seems to be working fine. No apparent slowdowns that I can notice, so that's pretty good. And it looks like we have Word loaded here. Let's see if Microsoft Word 1. That's great. So this would have been after, actually, I think Word was released first for the Mac, if I remember correctly. Then it came over to Windows later. So let's see if this works. I'm noticing too a little bit of glitching on the screen, and I'm wondering if that's because, well, it's processing certain chunks of code or whatever. There's maybe some delays in the video. It's causing some delays in the video signal processing part of it, and that's when we see the glitching. Because I bet when it's done loading Word, I bet that glitching will go away. Let's see. But this is Microsoft Word for Windows version 1.1a, January 28th, 1991. Yeah, it looks like it's done. Will we get, oh, yep, there's our cursor. Now it should be done loading, but I'm still seeing some glitches. So this isn't perfect. Still pretty amazing that this is actually running on a $3 microcontroller. Is it working? I typed in. Yes, there it goes. There's a delay, but it's actually working. Yeah, so there's some odd delays here and there, but it's totally working. You wouldn't be able to print this out, obviously, but I'm just kind of amazed. Can I change the font? Yeah, it's pretty slow, but it's working. Here we go. So let's do script. Is that going to update the text I highlighted? Oh, yes, it did. Look at that. It's a very small font. Let's see if we can make that bigger. Yep, there we go. It did update it. So yeah, it's pretty slow, but the fact that this is working is just kind of blowing my mind right now. I can't believe this is working. All right, let's get out of here. Okay, so just for fun, I thought we could try out the VIC-20 emulator as well that Fabrizio wrote for the ESP32. And what I did was I went back to Arduino, went to examples, and loaded the VIC-20 program under emulation or under VGA. So I've got the VIC-20 program loaded, and when you can see when you come up, when you first boot up, it doesn't actually boot into the VIC-20 home screen. It boots into this menu, and then you can choose from some games. I think these are free games that he has included with this. They're free open source games that you can run. And then there's some options here too. You can either run a game, you can load a game, you can reset the emulator, I expect, or reset the system, soft reset, hard reset. So maybe this is actually running VIC-20 under the hood, and all of this is running in VIC-20. That would be pretty cool, but I'm not sure. And then you can set your keyboard layout, whether you want the RAM expansion installed or not. And then you can set your joystick to be either the cursor keys or you can use the mouse. Right now, the mouse isn't doing anything. But let's go ahead and try, I think this is Arkanoid. Let's try, what could some of these be? Frogget, That must be Frogart, right? Oh, and when you, that's cool. So when you arrow through these, if you need the 3K, not only does it say 3K in the file name, but it automatically adds it, the RAM expansion down here. So, what should we try? What should we try? Let's do Tetris, Tetris Plus. See what that looks like. I guess I just hit enter to load it. Yep, there it is, and there's music coming from the speaker. Don't know if you can hear that or not. Let me just put the music on here for a second. So the music is working, even though it's very, very quiet. I really need to figure out how to turn the music up. But it says F1 to start game, so let's see what happens. F1. Complete 5 lines to go to the next round. How do I twist it? How do I twist the, I don't know how to rotate. Okay, it says I can use INKL or joystick. So let's try this again. F1 to start. Oh, there we go. I rotates, okay. Oh, nice little graphic there. Do you see when it cleared a line, it was like ka-donk. See if I can do that again. Okay, here we go. Watch the bottom of the screen. I'll go ka-donk. That's really cool. Yeah, very nice. Awesome. Works great. Okay, so I was just able to connect to my Wi-Fi, and now it's downloading all of these games, 65 different games. Oh, cool. There's Omega Race. I'm going to have to ask, oh, Pac-Man. Okay, we're going to have to try some of these games out. This is so cool. I'm going to have to ask Fabrizio, but I think this is running in the constructs of a VIC-20. I'll have to ask him. Obviously, this doesn't look like a VIC-20, but the limited fonts and even these fonts up here, I mean, I'm pretty sure that this is a VIC-20 running in the background with this menu on it, and then it loads the game and reboots so that it can run it. I'm not sure, but I think so. So let's just try Donkey Kong, because that should be a familiar one to a lot of people. Okay, that's interesting. It's shifted over this way. I don't know what F1 is. So this is the problem, is this might not work because different keys might not be mapped out exactly like they would be in the game. Yeah, I have no idea how to start the game. Okay, let's try Choplifter. Okay, so here's Choplifter. Oh, hello. We can center the image on the screen. That's cool. What else can we do? Well, I'm not sure how to do anything else besides move this around the screen. I guess I'll have to do a little bit more research to see how this works. Okay, here's Demon Attack. Demon Attack is actually working. I used to love Demon Attack on the Atari. This is one of my favorite games for the Atari. It's so fun, and it's working just fine. So depending on the game, and again, I may have to do some more research, it'll either work or it won't. But yeah, this is working great, and it's a really, really fun game. Even that sound. Oops, I forgot I didn't have my mic on. I was trying to pick up some sound for the game. Even that sound when you finally die, I remember, is so good. So this game seems to be working fine. Well, clearly this is working just fine, except some of the games, of course, like Omega Race here, can't quite figure out what I need to do. Oh, there we go. It's actually working now. I'm not sure how to fire. You know, there's got to be a little bit more research that I put into this to try to figure out how it actually works. But it is working. It has not crashed. It's been very stable. So yeah, I would highly recommend checking this out. I mean, it's only worth it only costs an investment of about $15 in the board. And if you want to program or play with any of this stuff, it's a blast. It really is fun. And it's just amazing, again, that this is running on such a small microcontroller that only costs about $3. The dev board, like I said, is about $15. So yeah, pick one up, hook up your old monitor, your keyboard and mouse to it, and try some of the different programs. And give feedback as well. Make sure that if you find something that doesn't work, raise an issue, do your research. The reason I made this video was because I really couldn't find a lot of information on it, how to get started, how to set it up, how to use it, and what it actually looks like. So I wanted to make the video to help out Fabrizio, give some more publicity to the work that he's put into this. Not only that, but I actually ordered about 5 custom boards to use because Fabrizio was having a hard time selling his custom board, having time to do the software and the hardware. So I had some boards made up. They should be in about a month. So if you want to buy one of my boards from my website, you can go to retrohackshack.com/shop, I think the URL is. Give it about a month and you'll be able to go there and order this board. It's going to be a little bit more expensive than I wanted it to be because of the chip shortage. That's why I only ordered 5 of them. I'm hoping that over time, those chips that I had a hard time finding for this particular run of boards will get cheaper. And if there's enough interest out there and people want this board, I'll be sure to order more, and hopefully by then I'll be able to lower the price a little bit and make it more affordable. But anyway, with that, that's going to be the episode. If you liked this, if you learned something, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and you can also, of course, stay tuned if you're a patron and you're paying $2 a month or more. Stay tuned at the end of this episode and you will get some extra commentary at the end of this episode. So with that, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/retrohackshack and sign up.